Now, let me ask you a question. If someone had the password to every thought in your head, every insecurity, every plan you've got, would that make you feel safe or a little exposed? See, here's the truth. Trust in a relationship doesn't mean full exposure. It means wise exposure. And that's why I believe a woman should always keep 3 things to herself when it comes to a man. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is believing that love means you have to hand over every single part of yourself. No filter, no boundaries, no restraint. We live in this culture where people say, if you really love me, you'll tell me everything. And that sounds nice. It sounds noble, but it's also incredibly dangerous. Because here's the truth. Not everything that's in your head, not every insecurity that you carry deserves to sit in your partner's lap. See, your deepest insecurities are not evidence of honesty. They are evidence of humanity. They are wounds, and wounds don't heal faster just because you show them to somebody. Sometimes they get picked at. Sometimes they get used against you. And sometimes, even with the best intentions, the person you show them to doesn't know how to handle them. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're having one of those days where you just feel small. Maybe you're questioning your looks, your intelligence, your ability to keep up with life. And you dump all of that raw, unfiltered insecurity onto your man. What happens next? If he's healthy and supportive, maybe he comforts you. But even then, a seed gets planted. He starts to see you through that lens you just painted for him. If he's not so healthy, if he's immature or careless, he might throw those same words back at you later during a fight. And now what was once just a passing thought you had has become ammunition in your own home. That's why some insecurities, the deepest ones, are not meant to be shared in the raw. They're meant to be worked on, refined, processed. Because sharing from a place of healing is powerful. But bleeding out every insecurity in the moment you feel it, that's not intimacy. That's self-sabotage. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying hide every struggle. Vulnerability is important. Openness is necessary. A relationship without honesty will starve. But there's a difference between being honest and being reckless with your truth. Honesty says, I'm working through something right now, and I might need your support. Recklessness says, here's every negative thought I've ever had about myself, and I expect you to fix it. A woman who understands this knows that some of her insecurities are her responsibility, not her partner's burden to carry. She protects the relationship by protecting her healing process. That's not hiding. That's wisdom. Think about it like this. If you walked into a gym with a broken arm, would you ask the trainer to carry your weights for you? Or would you let the arm heal, build it back up, and then return to lift on your own? The same principle applies here. Some insecurities are broken arms. They don't need to be dumped onto somebody else. They need time, care, and your own commitment to strengthening them. And here's something else. When you keep your deepest insecurities guarded until you've worked through them, you preserve respect in your relationship, because respect is born when you show up as a partner, not as someone constantly needing rescue. A man can love you deeply, but if he constantly sees you drowning in your own words of doubt, over time, that love gets clouded by fatigue. But when he sees you handling your insecurities with grace, choosing what to share and what to guard, he doesn't just love you. He admires you. That admiration is fuel. It builds trust. It creates attraction. Because a man respects a woman who knows herself well enough to say, I will not put my rawest wounds on the table just to prove that I trust you. I will let you in where it matters, but I'll protect the parts of me that are still bleeding. And here's the beauty of it. When you do that, when you choose wisdom over impulse, when you choose boundaries over exposure, you don't just protect yourself. You strengthen the relationship. You show him that you are more than your insecurities, that you are a woman who leads herself first. And let me tell you, a woman who leads herself first will never be led poorly by anyone else. So no, a woman should never hand over her deepest insecurities just because she thinks it proves her love. Those insecurities are not gifts for someone else to unwrap. They are responsibilities for her to tend to. And when she does, when she guards them wisely, she doesn't weaken the relationship. She elevates it. Because the truth is, not everything needs to be said out loud to be understood. When I say a woman should always protect her strategy, what I mean is this: you don't hand out the entire playbook to anyone. not even the man you love, because every queen protects her moves. She may let you see the board, she may let you watch the game, but she never lays down every card in her hand. And that's not deception, that's power. See, in relationships, we sometimes confuse transparency with total access. We think that if we really care about somebody, we need to tell them exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and every step we plan to take along the way. But the reality is your strategy, whether it's for your career, your personal growth, or even how you manage the relationship itself, is not always meant for full disclosure. Why? Because strategy requires protection. If you tell someone every move you're planning to make, you open yourself up to interference. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. A careless comment can knock you off balance. An insecure reaction can make you doubt yourself. And before you know it, your energy isn't going into executing your plan. It's going into defending it. Let's make it practical. Say you've got a dream. Maybe you're starting a business. Maybe you're planning to make a big change in your life. You share the whole blueprint with your man. If he's supportive, great. But even support comes with questions, with opinions, with feedback you didn't ask for. And if he's not as supportive, that doubt seeps into your mind. And suddenly the thing you were so sure about feels shaky. You're second guessing yourself, not because it was a bad plan, but because you gave away too much too soon. Your strategy is like a seed. When it's first planted, it's fragile. It doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need everybody's hands reaching for it. It needs soil protection, quiet. If you dig it up every day to show someone how it's growing, you kill it. And the same goes for your life. Some things are meant to be shared when they've already sprouted, when they're strong enough to stand, not when they're still vulnerable in the soil. This isn't about secrecy. It's about timing. There's a right time to let people in on your strategy. And it's usually after the roots are deep enough that no storm can shake it. That's when you reveal. That's when you say, this is what I've been building. And you'll notice the respect hits different when you present results, not drafts. Now, here's what often happens when a woman doesn't protect her strategy. She thinks she's being loving by oversharing, by giving a man access to every thought and plan. But what she's really doing is giving him leverage. Even if he doesn't mean to use it against her, it changes the power dynamic. He now knows every step she'll take before she takes it. And when a man knows every move, the mystery is gone, the respect is tested, and the influence shifts. On the other hand, when a woman holds her strategy close, she creates an element of unpredictability, and unpredictability is attractive. It keeps him watching, paying attention, wondering what she'll do next. He doesn't feel shut out. He feels intrigued. He doesn't feel deceived. He feels impressed, because there's nothing more magnetic than a woman who knows where she's going but doesn't need to narrate every mile marker along the way. And let me tell you this, the man who truly values you will never demand your entire playbook. He'll celebrate your wins. He'll admire your direction, and he'll trust you enough to know that if it's meant for him, you'll let him in at the right time. The ones who insist on seeing every step, that's usually fear talking or control, not love. Protecting your strategy also protects your peace, because when you know you don't have to explain yourself, you move lighter. You execute with confidence. You don't waste energy justifying what you're doing. You use that energy to actually do it. And when the results come, they speak louder than any explanation ever could. So no, you don't need to lay out every detail of your vision, every strategy, every move you're about to make. A wise woman knows when to share and when to guard, because the goal isn't to prove to someone that you're open. The goal is to build a life that speaks for itself. And the truth is, the strongest strategies are the ones that don't need to be announced. One of the quickest ways people weaken a relationship is by dragging too much of their past into it. And I don't mean memories or lessons or wisdom. Those are valuable. I mean details. I mean the full story of who you dated, what you did, how it ended, where it went wrong, and every messy detail in between. That's the kind of history that, once spoken out loud, takes on a life of its own inside your current relationship, and more often than not causes more damage than good. Now, of course, it's fair to share some things. Honesty matters. Transparency matters. If there are important facts about your past that could affect the future, yes, those should be known. But the running commentary, the play, by-play of everything that ever happened with your exes. That's not transparency. That's oversharing. And oversharing is where the cracks begin. Here's why. Once you tell a man about every detail of your past relationships, you plant images in his mind. You tell him how someone used to treat you. He pictures it. You tell him where things went wrong. He imagines himself there. You tell him how someone broke your heart, and without meaning to, you've introduced a ghost into the room. That ghost follows you. It sits between the two of you. And even though the past is dead, you've resurrected it through words. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how jealousy rarely comes from what's happening right now? It usually comes from what we know about what happened before. The details you thought were harmless, even casual, can become ammunition in arguments later. He may never say it out loud, but in the back of his mind, he's thinking, she used to do this with him, or she told me this is where it all went wrong. So is it happening here too? Those little seeds grow, and they grow because you planted them. The irony is people overshare their past because they think it builds trust. They think, if I tell you everything, you'll know I have nothing to hide. But the truth is, dumping every detail of your past doesn't build trust. It creates comparison. It gives him a ruler to measure himself against people who don't even matter anymore. And that's not fair to him, and it's not fair to you. There's also a respect factor here. When you carry yourself as someone who protects your own story, who doesn't put every chapter of your past on the table for judgment, you hold on to a kind of dignity. You're saying, yes, I've been through things. Yes, I've learned lessons, but not every part of that belongs here. And that boundary isn't cold. It's wise, because not everything you've lived through is relevant to where you're going. Let's flip it for a second. If a man sat across from you and gave you every single detail of his past relationships, how many times he failed, who broke up with him, who he loved, who he cheated on, who cheated on him, would you feel closer to him? Or would you feel weighed down by information you didn't ask for, information that changes how you see him even if you don't want it to? That's the danger. What you overshare cannot be unheard. And once it's in the air, it shapes the way someone sees you forever. The better approach is this: share the lesson, not the play. You can say, I've learned to value loyalty because I've experienced what it feels like when it's missing. You can say, I've grown to appreciate communication because I know what it's like when it falls apart. That's wisdom. That's transparency with purpose. But you don't need to walk him through the old story scene by scene. The lesson is enough. The rest belongs to your past where it should stay. And here's what happens when you do it this way. Instead of him comparing himself to men who no longer matter, he sees you as someone who carries maturity, someone who's not defined by the pain of yesterday, but by the growth it produced. And that right there builds more trust than any list of details ever could. Because trust isn't about knowing everything that happened to you before me. Trust is about knowing who you are with me now. So no, a woman should never unload the full story of her past relationships as if that's the price of honesty. The price of honesty is integrity, not overexposure. And when you choose to protect the details and share only the wisdom, you honor yourself, you honor him, and you give the relationship a chance to stand on its own, not in the shadow of ghosts that should have been left behind. Because not every chapter of your story was meant to be read out loud. One of the clearest marks of integrity is knowing what's yours to share and what isn't. And when it comes to the secrets, struggles, or private details of the people closest to you, your family, your friends, your inner circle, those are not yours to hand over. Not even in the name of love. Because here's the truth: protecting other people's trust shows exactly what kind of person you are. And if you can't guard the words entrusted to you by the people who love you, what does that say about the words you'll guard in your relationship? Think about it this way. When a friend confides in you, when your sister calls you late at night, when your mother shares something vulnerable, they're not just passing along information. They're handing you their trust. They're saying, I believe you're strong enough to carry this without letting it slip. And if you turn around and pass that same information along to your man, you've broken that contract. It may feel small, it may even feel harmless, but the truth is you've shown you can't be trusted with what isn't yours. Now, I know the argument. People say, but I tell my man everything. We don't keep secrets. And on the surface, that sounds admirable. But let's be honest, not everything is your secret to tell. If you really love your partner, you won't drag them into issues that were never meant for them. Because when you repeat something entrusted to you, it's not transparency, it's betrayal. And it may not feel like betrayal to him, but it will to the person who trusted you first. Here's the problem with spilling your inner circle secrets. You turn your partner into a vault they never signed up to be. Now they're carrying things about people they don't have context for, people they don't have loyalty to, people they may see differently forever because of what you shared. And that can get messy. Maybe he starts to lose respect for your best friend because of what he knows. Maybe he judges your family differently because of something you told him in confidence. And suddenly, relationships that had nothing to do with him are colored by words that should have stayed private. But beyond that, there's an even deeper layer here. If you make a habit of sharing everything that isn't yours to share, eventually he's going to wonder, when I tell her something in confidence, will she be repeating it to somebody else too? You see, how you handle other people's secrets tells him exactly how you'll handle his. And that cuts deeper than you think. Because trust isn't just about what you do for each other in private. It's about how you show up across the board. There's also a strength in silence that often gets overlooked. Not silence that hides your own struggles, but silence that protects the dignity of the people who gave you their trust. That silence says, I don't need to tell you everything I know in order to feel close to you. It says, I am a safe place, not just for you, but for everyone who relies on me. And believe me, that kind of integrity is magnetic. A man respects a woman who doesn't gossip, who doesn't leak, who doesn't fold under the temptation to overexpose. Because if she protects others with that kind of care, he knows she'll protect him too. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like drawing a line between what's mine and what's theirs. It looks like saying, I can tell you how I feel about something, but I won't hand you someone else's story. It looks like being strong enough to resist the urge to turn every piece of private information into pillow talk. And it looks like choosing loyalty to your inner circle without compromising loyalty to your man, because those things aren't in conflict, they're in alignment. At the end of the day, protecting the secrets of your family and friends isn't about keeping walls in your relationship. It's about demonstrating character. It's about showing that your word has weight, that when someone gives you their trust, it doesn't leak out the side when the lights go off. And that's the kind of strength that makes a relationship stronger, not weaker. Because real love isn't proven by what you reveal. It's proven by what you refuse to betray. There's something powerful about the strengths you keep to yourself. I'm not talking about the big victories you share, the accomplishments you let the world see. I'm talking about that quiet resilience, the personal grit, the resourcefulness that no one knows about but you. That hidden edge you carry isn't meant to be displayed at every turn. It's meant to be held close, used when necessary, and protected from being picked apart. Because not every strength needs an audience. The truth is, a lot of people confuse visibility with validation. They think if I show him how strong I am in every way, he'll respect me more. But strength isn't about putting everything on display. Strength is about restraint. It's about knowing what to reveal and when to reveal it. It's about understanding that some parts of your power are more valuable when they remain unseen until the right moment. See, when you lay all your strengths out in the open, two things can happen. The first is that they get underestimated. Once somebody feels like they've figured you out, they stop being impressed. The second is that they can be challenged. When you reveal all your cards, someone might try to test them, push against them, or even use them against you. And suddenly, what was once your edge is now a battlefield. But when you hold something back, when you keep part of yourself tucked away, you carry a kind of mystery that commands respect. He may know you're strong, but he doesn't know how strong. He may know you're smart, but he doesn't know just how sharp you can be when the moment calls for it. That's what keeps him attentive. What keeps him curious, what keeps him leaning in to learn more about you. Think about it. Some of the most powerful moments in life are the ones that surprise us. When you show strength no one expected, when you rise in a situation where others doubted you, that's when people really pay attention. That's when admiration turns into respect. And you can't create that moment if you've already told everybody exactly what you're capable of. There's also this, not everyone knows how to handle strength up close. Some men, when they see the full force of what you can do, may feel threatened instead of inspired. And that doesn't mean you're too much. It just means they weren't built for it. But here's where wisdom comes in. You don't have to show every ounce of strength right away. You can keep some of it within, use it to fuel yourself, and bring it forward when the time is right. That way, your strength works for you instead of working against the relationship. And let's be real, keeping certain strengths to yourself isn't about hiding. It's about stewardship. It's about saying, this is mine. This is what makes me powerful. And I don't owe the full blueprint to anyone, because strength that's constantly on display starts to feel ordinary, but strength that appears when it's needed, that feels extraordinary. This is also what keeps a relationship balanced. When a man knows you have layers he hasn't fully explored, he doesn't take you for granted. He understands that there's more to you than what's visible. And that understanding keeps his respect alive, because he realizes he hasn't fully reached the bottom of who you are, and maybe he never will. That's the kind of depth that holds attention for a lifetime. And here's the beauty. When you protect those silent strengths, you're not only protecting the relationship, you're protecting yourself. You're keeping a reserve. You're holding back just enough power to always know, no matter what happens, you are steady, you are secure, you are capable on your own. That's not about being distant. That's about being complete. So yes, share your love, share your joy, share your life with your man, but don't feel like you have to hand over every ounce of your strength for him to appreciate you, because the most powerful parts of you are often the ones you never announce, the ones that only show up when life demands it. And the truth is, the strongest women aren't the ones who show all their power. They're the ones who know exactly how much of it to keep. So when you step back and look at it all, it comes down to this: protecting certain parts of yourself isn't about distance. It's about